Chapter 216, Sorted Out. Chanwei whispered resentfully. She stood up to give Long Zhengyu a handshake and said with a smile, "Hello handsome. I'm Chanwei. You can call me Wei Wei." "Hi too, Wei Wei." Long Zhengyu and Chanwei shook hands. However, his expression slightly flickered upon feeling that Chanwei was using her small finger to scratch his palm. Tang Xiu was keenly aware of Long Zhengyu's expression. He couldn't help but be amused and stared at Chanwei as he said, "I tell you, you can never tease him. He has women all over Star City, they can't fit inside this box. Also, you'd better restrain yourself. And don't mess around chasing men everywhere. You gotta be careful not to catch an STD later." 1. Tang Xiu, how can you undermine me like this? No matter what you say, we are friends that have shared trials and tribulations together, haven't we? Chanwei resentfully retorted. Have we shared any hardships at all? When was that? Tang Xiu said and surprised. Last night in the pub? Also in the hotel. Chanwei spoke forcefully with conviction. Rolling his eyes, Tang Xiu snapped, "You call that sharing trials and tribulations? Bah. You old woman, your preposterous argument is truly crooked. Hey, Zhengyu, why on earth are you stunned for? If you don't want to eat with us and already had your lunch, just go take care of your own business." Long Zhengyu actually had already had his lunch and didn't plan to stay for a meal either. However, Chanwei's nature and her relationship with Tang Xiu sparked his curiosity. Immediately, he pulled a chair and said with a smile after he sat down, "Did the both of you book a room in the hotel last night? Damn, you truly have good fortune, Miss Wei Wei. But you're also very unlucky." Huh? Chanwei was puzzled and asked, "What do you mean?" Long Zhengyu chuckled. "I'm saying that you have good fortune since I've never heard that Tang Xiu would prostrate himself under a woman's skirt. As for bad luck, you have so many love rivals. Moreover, each and every one of them is very extraordinary and outstanding. Some of them can even make my heart palpitate unceasingly." He also has a woman he likes? Chanwei was flabbergasted and said, "What joke is this? Aside from acting cool and his venomous vile tongue, how can any woman fall for him? Speaking about that, it's also a coincidence. There's a very beautiful woman 2 boxes away from this room who's wishing to devote her life to him." Long Zhengyu chuckled. "Where?" Chanwei quickly asked. "To the left side." Long Zhengyu answered. Chanwei got off her chair and quickly ran outside. Upon seeing this, Tang Xiu immediately shouted, "Hey, where are you going? Don't mess around and create trouble. Come back and eat your meal quickly." However, Chanwei simply ignored him. After leaving, she then ran to the left corridor. Tang Xiu turned his head as he glared at Long Zhengyu and said, "What rubbish did you inject it into her, eh? That woman is a rare marvel. She just came back from abroad and arrived in Star City last night. Originally, she was to stay with her friend, but since her friend had something important to take care of, she entrusted her to me, wanting me to look after her for 2 days. Long Zhengyu spoke with a weird tone. "Which friend of yours is she? To think that she even can make you act so meticulous like this?" Tang Xiu reluctantly replied. Forget it. I'll tell you the truth. She's my 3rd year's teacher in charge." So that's how it is. Long Zhengyu said with a smile, "You have an indifferent nature, if not cold and detached, that is. Wanting to be your friend truly is difficult as reaching the sky, so I was really curious about someone who has the ability to even make you regard them as a friend. That reminds me, however. I heard that your teacher in charge is a very beautiful woman, yes? Damn, you don't have anything else except beautiful women in your mind, do you?" Tang Xiu said. Intentionally showing a loving look, Long Zhengyu said with a tender and soft voice, I still have you in my eyes. Fuck you. Tang Xiu shivered down his spine and snapped with fright. Inside another box. Kong Xia was having lunch, accompanying several top brasses from the city authority, whereas Jack was throwing some Chinese jokes charmingly, teasing the several city leaders to burst into laughter. The wine in their glasses also reduced at a fast rate. I'm sorry, miss, you can't go in. An attendant's voice was heard. Even when she was speaking, Chen Wei had already squeezed into the box. When her eyes looked at the people on the wine table, her sight finally landed on Kong Xia's face, as she immediately stared blankly afterward. Beautiful. She's really gorgeous. She had seen numerous beauties, but not even one of them could be compared with this woman. Even her good sister, Han Qinggu, was slightly worse. However, why would this super beauty look somewhat familiar? Chen Wei shook her head. She didn't believe that Kong Xia would know Tang Xiu. After all, Tang Xiu, in front of Kong Xia, was just like a toad wanting to have a go at a swan. However, she also wanted to confirm whether Long Zhengyu's words were true or not. So she asked, Hello beautiful woman, might I ask whether you know Tang Xiu? On the other hand, upon seeing that a stranger suddenly broke into the box all of a sudden, Kong Xia herself was quite displeased and was about to question Chen Mei. However, upon hearing the inquiry from her out of the blue, she immediately stood up and waved to the attendant and asked back, I do know him, and you are. Are you sure you know him? Chen Wei was surprised and then continued, This Tang Xiu I'm speaking about is very young, less than 20, and just attended the CET. The person you said, and the one I know of, should be the same person, Kong Xia said with an ascertaining tone. Astonished, Chen Wei said, That means what Long Zhengyu said is true? Do you like Tang Xiu and is one of his pursuers? Kong Xia looked at Chen Wei with a strange expression. A few seconds silence later, she probed, Did Tang Xiu listen to Long Zhengyu's words and admit it? Knowing that Tang Xiu chap who's always reluctant to admit anything, how can he confirm it? Chen Wei said. Kong Xia was secretly relieved. A smile crept up on her face. She then turned around, looking at the few city leaders on the table, and then said with a smile, Gentlemen, I have a small private matter I have to deal with, so I'll have to leave you to your drink fist. Jack, please entertain these leaders well. If they don't enjoy their drinks to the full, I won't forgive you. Understood, madam. Jack laughed. Kong Xia let out a faint smile and left the box along with Chen Wei. After they were in the corridor outside, she asked, Is Tang Xiu also here? Yup. He's the one who brought me here. Chen Wei nodded. All right. I haven't introduced myself. I'm Kong Xia, the general manager of Magnificent Tang Corporation. By the way, might I trouble you to take me to him? Kong Xia said with a smile. Huh? Chen Wei curiously replied, Why do I feel like I have heard your name somewhere? Well, my name sounds familiar to a lot of people since it's very common, to begin with. Kong Xia said with a smile. Chen Wei shook her head to suppress the doubt in her eyes before she replied, Let's go. I'll take you to see him. Long Zhengyu said there's a lot of beautiful women who like Tang Xiu and there's one of them in the box here. I didn't believe him at first. But after coming here, what he said is true. You're the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Thanks for the compliment. Kong Xia said with a faint smile. After they arrived at the box where Tang Xiu was in, Kong Xia saw that Tang Xiu was chatting with Long Zhengyu as she greeted with a smile. Boss, I'm disturbing your lunch, am I? I just heard from Zhengyu that you're drinking with several city leaders in the next box. How is it? You drank a lot? Tang Xiu said with a smile. I still have some work in the afternoon, so I only drank a little. Besides, it's Jack who's accompanying them. Kong Xia said with a smile. Nodding, Tang Xiu said, Give me a few years and I guarantee that you won't have to entertain people in drinking parties to secure business deals for our company. It will be others who will beg to do that for us. In addition, if someone dares to disrespect you, you don't need to care about their faces and you can directly slap them. Anyone who dares to backstab us, you tell me and I'll fix them up. Having a boss like you is so rewarding, Kang Xia said with a smile. Wait. Chen Wei walked to Kang Xia. Both of her hands stretched between Kang Xia and Tang Xiu as a look of disbelief was written all over her face. Chief Kang, what did you just call him? Boss? You said you're the general manager of Magnificent Tang Corporation, then that means he's the big boss of the company? Yes. He's the big boss of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. Kang Xia nodded with a smile. As shocked as she was, Chen Wei looked at the two. After a moment of hesitation, she asked, then, how many assets do the Magnificent Tang Corporation have? It's a business secret, so it's inconvenient to tell you. Kang Xia shook her head and said. You tell me. Chen Wei's sight shifted toward Tang Xiu and shouted. Tang Xiu didn't directly answer her question. But he looked at Kang Xia and asked, that matter should be almost over, right? How many shares we got from it? Well, it could be said so. After the finishing touch has been handled, we'll obtain the results soon. About the amount, it should be around 4 billion yuan after dividing it between everyone. Kang Xia answered. With a satisfied look, Tang Xiu said, spending 200 million and earning 4 billion. It's worth it. Chen Wei was flabbergasted as he watched the two. Her jaw dropped open so wide that even a big goose egg could be stuffed into her mouth. You, who are you exactly? Chen Wei pointed at Tang Xiu. You, who are you? Chen Wei didn't wait for Tang Xiu as she cried out. Didn't he just say it? He's the big boss of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. I even dare say that with the well-renowned Kang Xia working for him, the total assets of the company will be rising from 100-fold to 1,000-fold in the future. Maybe they'll even surpass Bill Gates. Long Zhengyu answered her with a sour tone. Chen Wei's eyes blinked. Her body suddenly shook as she almost fell to the floor. As shocked as she was, she looked at Kang Xia and involuntarily shouted, "Oh my God. I remember now. You're Kang Xia, the business genius from the Wall Street who shook the entire world, aren't you?" Kang Xia said with a smile, I dare not accept that my name has shaken the world, though. But I indeed came from Wall Street. Chen Wei staggered before she sat down on her original seat. She covered her chest with her hands and was speechless for a long period of time. It was a great shock. She was shocked down to the core way too much today. The shock this time was not because of Kang Xia at all, but it was because of Tang Xiu. Even in her dreams, she had never expected that the fellow who accompanied her this time, who ridiculed her with his sarcasm, turned out to have such a terrifying identity. Who was Kang Xia? She was the most brilliant genius in the business world. An outstanding talent that numerous super consortiums wanted to hire. However, she actually returned back to her homeland and unexpectedly became Tang Xiu's subordinate. That's right. Long Zhengyu had just said before that Kang Xia was interested in Tang Xiu. Was it true as well? Chen Wei's reaction was somewhat ridiculous for Tang Xiu. However, he didn't say anything more due to the presence of Kang Xia and Long Zhengyu. Instead, he spoke to Kang Xia, anyways, if you don't have to entertain them anymore and have nothing left to do, you should go back and rest earlier. I still have to return since it's not over yet. I left Jack as the host there to accompany them. It's not convenient for me to leave them for too long, so I'll go back there first. All right then. Tang Xiu nodded. Chapter 217, Accomplishing the Task. The lunch was over. After parting ways with Long Zhengyu, Tang Xiu took Chen Wei to a nearby bank to change the 20 million check and gave 2 million to Chen Wei, who was hell-bent on refusing it. After leaving the bank, the duo stood on the heavy traffic road as Tang Xiu asked while smiling, "Lunch is done, and we also got some money, so you can stay obediently in the hotel this afternoon, can't you?" "I'm afraid I have no time to stay with you since I have something to deal with." "Where are you going?" Chen Wei asked. "Do something important," Tang Xiu said. Chen Wei hesitated before she finally nodded and said, "Well, go then. I'll just go back to the hotel myself. As for tonight, are you still gonna accompany me to dinner?" "I can't. But if you can keep your word to stay in the hotel obediently, I will come over at noon tomorrow. Han Qinggu will come back to Star City tomorrow noon. So I'll say to her that I've done her errand and send you back to her," Tang Xiu said. With a somewhat complex expression, Chen Wei replied, "You're anxious to send me to Han Qinggu, aren't you? The two of you are good sisters, so naturally, I want you two to meet earlier," Tang Xiu said. "If you don't stay with me, I'll stroll around myself," Chen Wei said. Tang Xiu was surprised for a moment before he forced out a smile and shook his head. The day passed quickly. Chen Wei was as though a dog plaster as she didn't let Tang Xiu leave for whatever reason. Even at night, she didn't want Tang Xiu to go back to South Gate Town. She said she was afraid that something just like last night would occur again and wanted him to accompany her to the hotel. Tang Xiu was fuming with anger and almost knocked her out. The noon of the next day, Tang Xiu received a call from Han Qingwu when Chen Wei was wolfing down snacks and drinks as much as she wanted in the streets. After Han Qingwu arrived, Tang Xiu bluntly said, "Teacher Han, for this kind of annoying task, please don't bother to look for me again later." "Well, since I've done my task, I'll go first." Han Qingwu quickly pulled him. With an expression of being at a loss whether she had to cry or laugh, she said, "Tang Xiu, didn't you just accompany Chen Wei for 2 days? How can you look bitter like this? Did that girl harass you?" "I knew her character. She does have indecent thoughts, but she isn't evil and has no courage. She even had no boyfriend up until now." Tang Xiu rolled his eyes. "Humph, she's simply a big crook. Were it not for me making some ruckus back then, I'm afraid she would have had to go with a pretty lass in the hotel merrily." Han Qingwu involuntarily laughed. "Did that girl tell you she's bisexual? Ignore her rubbish talk. Her sexual orientation is normal." Tang Xiu blankly stared for a moment. Looking at Chen Wei, who was immersing herself in gorging out her snacks, he almost had the urge to tear her mouth. This woman's inner world was true as though a seabed of needles. He truly had been fooled by her thoroughly. "I gotta go. Bye," said Tang Xiu as he strode away. Han Qingwu looked at his back as she shook her head with a wry smile. Then, she sat down next to Chen Wei and said with a smile, "What did you do to make him look like as if he's been tortured?" Chen Wei looked up, watching at the direction toward Tang Xiu's back who had just left. A touch reluctance flashed from her eyes as she concealed it by raising her hand in front of her forehead and caressing her long hair to the side. After that, she pretended to look calm when she spoke. "Hey, I'm not a vixen. How can I do things like that to him? I tell you, this student of yours is a marvel. He's simply a deity. Following him to drink and have meals even earned me some money. If it wasn't for him hitting and knocking me out, these days could be said as very great." A strange expression was written all over Han Qingwu's face as she looked at Chen Wei. She suddenly felt a feeling as if the last 2 days for her were very splendid. However, her complexion flickered upon hearing that Tang Xiu hit her. "Wei Wei, did Tang Xiu hit and knock you out, for real?" Chen Wei harumphed and said, "Humph, he did, and it was kinda heavy as well." Han Qingwu asked, "Why?" "He's just like the dog that bites Lu Dongbin, paying my good kindness with ill reward. It was very dangerous 2 nights ago, and out of my kindness and good intention," Chen Wei said resentfully. Along with her narration, Han Qingwu figured out the whole story. Despite being informed about it, She was also shocked by the story and was even unable to speak for quite a long while. You mean that Tang Xiu was the one who called the police to come to the pub, in order to make you go back to the hotel obediently and then found some people selling drugs there? And then he also tracked the following clues up to Caesar Grand Hotel? Which then the shootout happened and a lot of people died. Yes. But it was more amazing in the reality version than the movies, though. So, that Tang kid didn't listen to my advice and was against it. Not only did he knock me out, he also went out and successfully became a hero. Fortunately, he was all right. Or else, it would have been me who had to take care of him, instead of the other way around. A trace of envy appeared on Han Qingwu's face as she said, "You truly had splendid times. Had I known about it, I wouldn't have gone to Shanghai in the first place."
Ah.
Right. You just said that you also got some money when you were out with him. What do you mean by that? A bright smile suddenly surfaced on Xinwei's face as she belched and said, "Nope. I can't tell you this one since I gave my word to him not to tell this to anyone. But I can tell you that your student is truly awesome. Even after living in the United States for so many years and also seeing a lot of gifted people, geniuses, clever individuals, and devilish talents, there's no one who can compare to his fierceness. Just wait. In the future, he will absolutely exude a golden light all over his body, just like the dazzling deity in his war armor." Pfft. Han Qingwu couldn't help laughing and then said with a smile, Wei Wei, the way you're speaking isn't describing a great man, but it's like you're describing a bridegroom. Tell me honestly, you took a liking to my student, didn't you?" Chen Wei rubbed her belly and joked back, "I do have fallen for him. But if I marry him, then it means I have to follow him in calling you Teacher Han also. Damn you." After laughing merrily for a while, Han Qingwu asked, "Wei Wei, you haven't answered my question." Chen Wei stopped laughing and replied, "I can answer you about one topic. As for the other questions, you have to find that student of yours if you really want to know." "Which one?" Han Qingwu asked with doubt. "It's about his awesomeness. So to speak, is the Long's Dining Hall a very high-grade restaurant in Star City?" Chen Wei said. Han Qingwu replied seriously, "It is. If it was said as the second, no others can be said as the first. Tang Xiu is a member of this Long's Dining Hall and even a VIP there. As for the rest, figure it out yourself." "Tang Xiu is a member of the Long's Dining Hall?" Han Qingwu said with a look of disbelief, "Who are you joking at? Tang Xiu is only a student, and the situation of his family is not particularly good either. How could he get the Long's Dining Hall's membership?" "Wei Wei, you must be joking with me." Chen Wei raised 2 fingers, ascertaining it, "If I were to say a lie, may I won't marry anyone else but you in this entire life of mine." "Hey. That's so damn indecent." Han Qingwu was amused and burst into laughter. At Star City Airport. After Tang Xiu bade farewell to Han Qingwu and Shen Wei, he took a cab and rushed here. Yesterday he had made an appointment with someone to go to Tianjin City to buy Wintertide Fluorite and Star Fragment Stone. Since there were still nearly 2 hours before the flight took off, Tang Xiu casually looked for a cafe, drinking coffee while killing time. However, he inadvertently found a woman who was trying to be secretive. She was wearing a sun hat, big black sunglasses, black trench coat, and was quietly slipping into the cafe. Huh? Tang Xiu's face suddenly flickered. He found that the woman looked very alike a famous female singer. Zhang Xinya? After entering the cafe, the woman looked around and glanced over toward the vacant seat next to Tang Xiu. Since the spot was located at the corner of the cafe, it was relatively remote and quiet. "Miss, can I take your order?" a staffer asked politely. A clear voice, as though a silver bell, came out of the woman's mouth. "1 cup of mocha, please." "And thank you." "Please wait a bit." The staffer answered and then turned away. Tang Xiu looked at her. She now took off her big sunglasses gently, which then made him immediately recognize her. She was indeed the popular singer in Asia who was moving toward the international stage, Zhang Xinya. He wasn't a fan of hers. Although Zhang Xinya's facial features were indeed extremely beautiful, he only glanced at her twice before he lowered his head to take out his mobile phone. Recently, he just realized that it was very convenient to browse the internet using a mobile phone. Not only was he able to read all kinds of news, but he can also search everything he wanted to know. 10 minutes later. When Tang Xiu was fiddling with his mobile, the silver bell's voice sounded again. "Sir, may I borrow your mobile phone? I need to make a phone call." Tang Xiu looked up and saw that Zhang Xinya was carrying a cup of coffee as she approached and then sat down on the opposite sofa. After a moment of silence, Tang Xiu said indifferently, "If you want my cell number, I'm sorry, I can't give it to strangers. If you really want to answer a phone call, 100 yuan per minute." "You," Zhang said angrily, "I'm not interested in your cell number, I just want to borrow your mobile phone." "You want to rip me off?" "No, you're mistaken. My mobile is my personal belonging. There are many confidential things inside that need to be kept secret and are not for others to see. If you want to borrow my mobile phone, you gotta pay for it. Do you think 100 yuan is too much?" Tang Xiu said. "Your argument is preposterous. It's simply crooked. Your confidential things are useless to me. Besides, do you know who I am?" Zhang Xinya was incensed. "Should I know you?" Tang Xiu asked back. Astonished, Zhang Xinya said, "You really don't know me?" Tang Xiu snapped humorlessly, "Are you going to use the phone or not? If not, then shut up." Zhang Xinya couldn't utter any words. Ever since she was 18 and joined the entertainment industry, it had been 6 years since her name became famous. With her good singing voice and extremely beautiful looks, she had attracted a large number of fans, and she was confident that the children of several years old or the elderly in their 70s or 80s across the country, 99% of them would probably have seen her either through the TV, internet, or even other media channels. Could it be that this chap just came out of the mountain region's ravine? But even if that's the case, as a man, he also ought to respond to such a very beautiful woman like me, no? Zhang Xinya also observed Tang Xiu just now. What made her astonished was that Tang Xiu's eyes were very clear, as though the eyes of a newborn child with no impurity in them, of which she had never seen from other men. Chapter 218, Closely Related. Zhang Xinya took a deep breath as she suppressed the anger in her heart and said, "Deal. 100 yuan per minute, now lend me your phone." "Take it." Tang Xiu handed over his mobile. Zhang Xinya took it. She got up and walked to the side and quickly dialed a number. After she whispered with the other side for a while, she then hung up the phone. Just as about to go back to her seat, she suddenly turned, recalling Tang Xiu's words about some secrets on his phone. Then, she immediately checked the phone's contents. 2 minutes later, just as she opened the call log, several familiar names reflected in her eyes. Ouyang Lulu? Chan Zhizhong? Chu Yi? Bai Tao? She remembered Ouyang Lulu's cell number and had even memorized it perfectly. When she opened the name ID and saw the number, an incredible expression was cast on her face. The number was real. Zhang Xinya turned and carefully looked at Tang Xiu over. Then, she returned back to the seat at Tang Xiu's opposite side. Swaying the mobile phone in her hands, she asked, "What's your name? Shouldn't you introduce yourself in a polite manner when you're asking someone else's name?" Tang Xiu said indifferently. Zhang Xinya paused. She forced out a smile and said, "You're really a freak, you know that? All right, I'll introduce myself. I'm Zhang Xinya, a singer star." "And you?" "Tang Xiu, a student. Looking at your young appearance, I know that you should be a student. But how do you know Ouyang Lulu?" "She's an islander of Jingmen Island." Are you from there also? Zhang Xinya said. Nope, we're just friends. Tang Xiu answered. As curious as she was, Zhang Xinya asked, You are her friend? How haven't I heard of you from her before? She might feel no need to say it since I'm not someone important to her. Well, questioning time is over, shouldn't you give me back my phone? Also, you just used it for 4 minutes, that should be 400 yuan, thank you. Tang Xiu said. Zhang Xinya handed the phone back to Tang Xiu. After a moment of hesitation, she spoke in a low voice, About that, can we talk about it? I'm Ouyang Lulu's friend. So are you. So let's just forget about the money, okay? Since we also introduced each other, it can be regarded as fate, right? No, that is that, and this one is another matter. Just give me the money. Tang Xiu shook his head and said. Why are you so hell-bent on money? Zhang Xinya replied angrily. Tang Xiu said, You know that money is a good thing. You can buy food, drinks, clothes. In addition, for the parents, they can bring up their children. For a young man, it can be used to marry a wife in the future, raising children. Stop, stop, stop. Being at a loss whether she had to laugh or cry, Zhang Xinya said, Who doesn't know the usefulness of money? But we're both Ouyang Lulu's friends. I also know Bai Tao and Chu Yi. That's right, I'm an acquaintance with Qin Zhizhong also. With so many layers of closely related personal contacts between us, how about we exempt money in this? You two know that the friends of our friends are my friends too, right? Since we're friends, always talking about money will hurt the sentiments and feelings between us. Despite being incensed, Tang Xiu smiled, Do we even have any sentiments? Zhang Xinya was speechless. Don't try to befriend me. You owe me money and that's that. Pay it. Tang Xiu said. Zhang Xinya stared angrily at Tang Xiu. Forcing out a smile, she said, I have no money on me. I lost my wallet and all my luggage. Or else I wouldn't be hiding here. So basically, you don't want to pay your debt? Tang Xiu asked. Zhang Xinya fumed with anger, Do I look like a person who will renege on a debt? Looking at your behavior, that would be very likely. Tang Xiu said with a deadpan expression. Zhang Xinya was so angry that she breathed heavily for a while. After thinking deeply for a moment, she reached out her hand and said, Gimme your phone, I must call someone. You haven't paid for the previous one, why should I lend you my phone now? You also just peeked on my phone's information. And I haven't settled the score with you about that. Zhang Xinya flared up again, Who the hell wants the information on your phone? Just gimme quickly. If you want your money, lend me the phone. Tang Xiu was silent for a moment and then handed his phone over again. Zhang Xinya took it. She picked Ouyang Lulu's number and directly called it. After a few seconds, Ouyang Lulu's voice came over. Since Zhang Xinya pressed the loudspeaker, Tang Xiu could also hear it. Honey, do you miss me? In fact, I also miss you. Our hearts, at last, are linked as one, yes. Zhang Xinya was stunned. Tang Xiu was also helpless and rolled his eyes. Cough, cough, Zhang Xinya coughed dryly a few times and probed, Lulu, it's Zhang Xinya. Xinya? Why you, are you? How come you're using Tang Xiu's phone to call me? You. Whoops, so fucking damn. Don't take what I just said seriously. I was just joking. From the phone, Ouyang Lulu's shocked and awkward voice came out. Relax. We're good sisters, so I won't laugh at you. Anyways, you really know this Tang Xiu? Judging from your words, you seem to be very close to him, no? Zhang Xinya smiled softly and replied. You can say that. I know him inside out. I even know which direction his bedside is turned to, Ouyang Lulu said before she abruptly stopped speaking. She realized that there were some subtle meanings in her words that would easily be misunderstood. A strange expression was written on Zhang Xinya's face. She glanced at Tang Xiu a few times before she said with a smile, since your relationship is at the candidly sharing everything stage, he will give you face, yes? Do me a favor, would you? I just borrowed his mobile and he wants to rip me off. Help me convince him I'll pay the debt when I meet him again later. As ashamed and angry as she was, Ouyang Lulu shouted, Shenya, don't talk nonsense, will you? My relationship with him is but a pure chaste friendship. But heck, how do you know about this anyway? All right, where are you now? Zhang Xinya said, Star City Airport, I just came here by chance. And why would Tang Xiu also be at the airport? Ouyang Lulu was surprised. Even if you ask me, how would I know? Just talk to him quickly, that I'll pay him later. Zhang Xinya said. Give the phone to him. I'll speak with him. Ouyang Lulu chuckled. Zhang Xinya directly handed the phone to Tang Xiu and said, she wants to speak with you. Tang Xiu took it and rolled eyes with a foul mood to Zhang Xinya before he spoke, Lulu, do pay attention to what you speak later. Don't make others misunderstand. Also, I have heard what you just said, and since she's really your friend, I won't bother with it again. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up. Wait. Why are you at the airport? Are you coming to Jingmen Island? If you are, I'll go to the Jingmen Islands airport and wait for you. Ouyang Lulu quickly called out. No. I'm going to Tianjin City. Tang Xiu said. What are you gonna do there? Is there anything good there? Ouyang Lulu asked doubtfully. Yes, there are some good things I wanna buy there. Tang Xiu answered. You want me to go with you? Ouyang Lulu hesitated and asked. You're in Jingmen Island, while I'm in Star City. How come you want to go with me? All right, take care of your business, and if you're done with it, we'll talk again later. Do remember to contact Kong Xia. She's the one who handles every issue related to the business aspect. She can make any decisions on my behalf. Tang Xiu replied snappily. Ouyang Lulu cried out, can I not see her? That woman has no good intentions toward you. Huh? Tang Xiu was quite puzzled and asked, why would she have no good intention toward me? This, Ouyang Lulu hesitated. Then, she hummed and said, I think she has some, well, bad intentions in following you. She's a capable woman and her beauty isn't any worse than mine. But she's too false, a hypocrite. Tang Xiu laughed involuntarily. Why do I feel like you're a concubine in a harem who's fighting for a favor? Then, he continued, all right, I'll hang up the phone, I'm about to board my flight. Zhang Xinya, who sat at the opposite side of Tang Xiu, could hear their conversation. She was keenly aware that her good sister had definitely fallen for Tang Xiu. It had been 7 to 8 years since she knew Ouyang Lulu, and it was her first time seeing Ouyang Lulu acting like a young spoiled girl when she talked with a man. Upon seeing Tang Xiu hung up the phone, her curiosity toward Tang Xiu was piqued all of a sudden as she then asked enthusiastically, wow. I didn't expect that proud sister of mine would even curl up her tail, she surely has a soft spot for you. Tang Xiu, what are you gonna do in Tianjin City? I also have to go there, but unfortunately, I lost my ID card and personal documents. Or else I could have gone there with you. I'd rather not, though. Your identity is way too piercing for the eyes. I'm a low-profile person, and I have never liked to be stared at by people wherever I go. Zhang Xinya was utterly speechless. She really couldn't utter anything at all toward a rare marvel such as Tang Xiu. All right, I've got to board my flight, so I'll go first. Tang Xiu stood up and said. After having said that, he took 200 yuan out of his wallet and put it on the table. I've paid the bill for your coffee too. If we meet again in this life, do remember to pay your debt. Wait. After seeing Tang Xiu's manner, Zhang Xinya was also quite grateful. She stood up and asked, "Can I ask you one last question?" Tang Xiu said, "Ask." "I saw Chen Zhizhong's number in your mobile phone a moment ago. Are you very close to him?" Zhang Xinya said and asked. "We're close," Tang Xiu said. Zhang Xinya hesitated and said, "Since you're very close to him, can you do me a favor? I have an urgent matter that I need to find him for. However, I'm unable to find him, since he seems to be very busy recently. Even if I make an appointment, I'll have to wait for many days. Didn't you say you know him? Just call him directly." I did call him, and he also picked up my call. But he said that he had no time at present. Zhang Xinya forced out a smile and said, "Why do you want to see him?" Tang Xiu asked again. "I know that he owns the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical, which runs the Chinese herbal medicine business. I need a very valuable medicinal herb and am hoping to buy it from him. To be frank, my father contracted a strange disease, which exactly needs that kind of herb." Zhang Xinya said. "What medicinal herb?" Tang Xiu asked. "Lone River Serpent," Zhang Xinya said. Tang Xiu's face flickered, as he asked with astonishment, "This medicinal herb is the key ingredient to treat the virtual fire deficiency disease. Did your father contracted this virtual fire deficiency disease?" Chapter 219, Demon Stone. Astonishment was written all over Zhang Xinya's beautiful face. She didn't expect that Tang Xiu could correctly guess the type of disease her father contracted by merely knowing the medicinal herb's name she gave out. Is he a divine doctor? The idea appeared inside her mind, even though she quickly cast it aside. If it was someone else who said it, she might believe he was a divine doctor. But when it came to Tang Xiu, she wouldn't believe it even if she was to be beaten to death. Tang Xiu was, after all, too young. Weren't all the Chinese medical doctors who were very proficient in Chinese traditional medicine, all of the old age? It's as you say, he contracted the virtual fire deficiency disease. Zhang Xinya nodded with an agonized expression. Lone River Serpent is indeed a good medicinal herb to treat this disease. The effect would be even better if it's added to the silver bluegrass. All right, since Ouyang Lulu has spoken for you, I might as well help you to the end, Tang Xiu said. After having said that, he dialed Chen Zhizhong's number. "Master, you're looking for me?" Chen Zhizhong's voice came out of the phone. "Yes. I have some trivial things to ask you. Do you know Zhang Xinya?" Tang Xiu asked. "I do," Chen Zhizhong replied. "I see. She needs a Lone River Serpent herb. Help her to look for it, give a discount if you can. She's Ouyang Lulu's friend," Tang Xiu said. Without hesitation, Chen Zhizhong said, "Understood, I'll contact her later. She's with me now, you can speak to her," Tang Xiu said. After having said that, he handed the phone to Zhang Xinya and said lightly, "It's Chen Zhizhong, you talk to him." Zhang Xinya was pleasantly surprised. She thanked gratefully as she took the phone and said, "Hello, I'm Zhang Xinya. Your Uncle Chen?" "Yes, it's me. My master has just told me about your situation. I'll try to find this Lone River Serpent herb to the best of my abilities, and I'll immediately inform you after I found it." "Your master?" Zhang Xinya was dumbfounded. A confused expression filled her eyes as she subconsciously asked. "So you actually didn't know that the person who owns this mobile phone is my master? All right. Since master has told me to take care of this matter, you can consider it done. Anyways, since I wouldn't have to talk to him over the phone again, I'll hang up." "All right," Zhang Xinya answered. Then, the muted beeping sounds came out of the phone. A shocked expression was written on her face as she looked at Tang Xiu as though she was looking at an alien. Master? Tang Xiu is Chen Zhizhong's master? Heavens! How is this possible? Who was Chen Zhizhong? He was the big boss of the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical, a powerful billionaire with 10 billion worth of assets. How was it possible that he worshipped a young man in his 20s given his elated status? Zhang Xinya swallowed a mouthful of saliva and asked with a trembling voice, Tang. Tang Xiu, are you really Boss Chen's master? Is there a problem with that? Tang Xiu calmly asked. And no problem, of course, there's no problem, it's just that. I was a little surprised. Zhang Xinya shook her head and waved her hands repeatedly and said, oh, right. Thanks. Thanks a lot. If it was me, calling Boss Chen would have been extremely difficult. Tang Xiu said with a pale smile, you're welcome, and no need to be that polite. So long as you see Ouyang Lulu later and don't say anything bad about me in front of her, I'm content enough. All right. Since I've done all I can, I'll be boarding my flight. Farewell. Wait. I'll send you off. Zhang Xinya quickly said. Tang Xiu stopped her and said straightforwardly, no. I don't want tomorrow's news headline to be, a big pop star Zhang Xinya is on an intimate secret date with a mysterious young man at the airport. So please, just stay where you are. After having said that, he took his black travel bag and walked to the door toward the departure gate. Zhang Xinya stared at Tang Xiu's back, dazed. Her heart was as though being turned upside down, with a mix of sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, and hot feelings inside. Even in her dreams, she didn't dare to think that she would come across such a bizarre encounter, of having met an amazing person. Originally, it was simply a mere coincidence. She lost her luggage. Then, a trivial matter of borrowing a mobile phone happened. Following that, everything accidentally led to the completion of her purpose in visiting Star City. Not only did she meet a friend of her good sister, the other party even seemingly was a practitioner who had high attainments in Chinese medical science. Tianjin City. Since its location was very close to Beijing, Tianjin City developed extremely fast. A large number of towering high-rise buildings were built along with row after row of shops with its dazzling lineup of merchandises. The transportation network was also extensive as it was accessible from all directions, with an unending flow of traffic that looked as though the full convergence body of a dragon. The night had almost fallen when Tang Xiu arrived in Tianjin City. Just as he arrived at Tianjin City Airport, he dialed the mysterious old man's number. He then rushed toward the antique trading market of Tianjin City after asking about the address. Desolate Origin Ancient Gate. The shop had a strange name and its decoration style gave off a gloomy vibe. Carrying his travel bag, Tang Xiu entered the front door of the most remote store in this antique trading market. A sense of repression floated inside as well as shrouding his mind. The big rafters, the walls, including all furniture inside were all black. The different colors he could see were only the rows of curios and antiques on the black shelves. At present, there wasn't anyone on the first floor. Aside from two visitors who were looking at the curios and antiques here, there was no one else. Tang Xiu was secretly surprised and wondered, was this shop owner not afraid that the visitors would steal the merchandise? However, in order to find the old man he just talked with on the phone, he released his perception and immediately found him in a private room on the second floor. Aside from a white-haired old man wearing reading glasses, there were also a couple of middle-aged man and woman there. The trio was currently staring at a foot length and a half-foot height finely carved coffin on the table in front of them. That is... Tang Xiu's pupils flickered. Along with the expanding of his perception, he focused his attention on the coffin. He didn't expect that he would find a demon stone on Earth. Demon stones were necessary treasures needed by demon cultivators from the demon realm. It contained a great amount of demonic force inside, for which it could enhance their cultivation bases and strength after they absorbed and refined it. It had the same usefulness as the immortal stones used by the immortals in the immortal realm, whereas for the immortals, they absorbed the immortal force from the immortal stones to enhance their strength. I have to obtain it. Tang Xiu's eyes flashed. For Tang Xiu, at present, unlike the immortal stones that would only bring about ordinary effects for him, demon stones were different. It was because of his cultivation technique. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis was actually a cultivation technique to refine the body into that of a demon, and God's divine body. In the case that he was to absorb its demonic energy, it would be a great boon for him in molding a divine body. Tang Xiu took a deep breath and then walked to the second floor. He stopped at the door and knocked it. You are? As the door was opened, the silver-haired old man looked at him curiously. Tang Xiu, from Star City. Tang Xiu answered. The silver-haired old man suddenly realized. However, he immediately frowned because he didn't expect that Tang Xiu would be so young. After hesitating, he said, You see, this old man is kind of a dotard. You're the one who called me, right? That. Please wait a bit. Some people came to me to sell an old object. I have to entertain them first. An old object? Can I take a look at it? Tang Xiu pretended to be surprised and said. The silver-haired old man actually wanted to refuse it. However, recalling that Tang Xiu was here to buy his precious stones, he nodded as to avoid other difficulties later. After entering the room, the silver-haired old man was as though he forgot Tang Xiu's presence. He quickly went back to inspecting the small coffin with the middle-aged man and woman, constantly moving back and forth. I can't open it. Didn't you say that this was passed down from your ancestors? Could it be that nobody among your ancestors was able to open it? Finally, the silver-haired old man couldn't help but ask. The middle-aged man was plainly dressed and looked simple and honest. Upon hearing the question, he immediately shook his head and said, Originally, the elders of the family thought that opening this coffin would be ominous, thus they put it in the family's ancestral shrine. Recently, there was a fire in our village. Dozens of houses were burnt, including our family's ancestral shrine. At first, we thought that everything had been burned to ashes, but we didn't expect that after we cleaned up the ruins, we'd found this coffin still intact. We also wanted to open it, however, no matter what means we tried, either smashing it with a hammer, burning it, nothing could damage this coffin, even a bit. This object is extremely hard. Even though I don't know how hard a diamond is, but I'm definitely sure that this coffin is harder than a diamond. The silver-haired old man nodded and said, Yes, this object is indeed extremely hard. I just used an electric drill and cutting machine before, but I can't destroy it. Also, this is the first time I saw this object and I can't identify the material and its quality. I'm not sure about the origin of this object, from which dynasty era. As for the valuation of this object, it's really hard for me to estimate it. The middle-aged man and woman glanced at each other as disappointment could be seen on their faces. They had visited more than a dozen antique stores. Neither of those shopkeepers or antique experts was able to figure out the value of the coffin. Even the highest price they were willing to offer was but only a mere 50,000 yuan. The middle-aged man asked, Old man, just say your price. If we feel that it's okay, we'll sell this thing to you. If not, then we'll leave. The silver-haired man had obviously considered the issue of the price for a long time. Upon hearing the middle-aged man's question, he stretched his finger and said, I'll buy it for 100,000. Upon hearing the offer, the middle-aged man and woman's faces were still full of disappointment. The middle-aged woman then asked again with anticipation on her face, Can you give a higher price? We're really in need of a lot of money, but we can't sell it for only 100,000. For a moment, the silver-haired old man was silent. After that, he slowly said, 120,000 yuan. This is the highest price I can offer. It's because I'm also taking a great risk in buying this object. If you can accept it, then we'll conclude the deal now. But if you can't, I won't raise my offer again. The middle-aged man said with a bitter expression, I'm sorry, we can't sell for 120,000 yuan. After having said that, he wrapped the coffin with the yellowish cloth again, looking down and dejected. Wait. Tang Xiu suddenly spoke. That middle-aged man was surprised for a moment. Even the middle-aged woman and the silver-haired old man were astonished. Looking at the middle-aged man, Tang Xiu asked, Can you tell me what happened to your family?
Ah.
All right. A big fire broke out in our home. Not only was the house all burnt, even my father got severe burn injuries. In order to treat our old father, we, husband and wife, have borrowed a lot of money. So, if this object is sold for less than 300,000, we can't even pay our debt. Chapter 220, Geologist. With a compassionate expression, Tang Xiu solemnly nodded and said, Filial piety is the most important of all virtues. So you have done the right thing. Even though I don't know what the object is, however, this object should be a good thing since this elder offered 120,000 yuan. Then, I'll give you 300,000. Sell it to me. Really? The eyes of the middle-aged man and woman brightened up and looked excited. Tang Xiu took out his mobile and calmly said, Tell me your bank account number so I can transfer the money to you. Remember, the most important virtue one should have is to be filial to our parents. No matter if we have to sacrifice everything or lose the family fortune, we have to make our family's aged parents have a good and comfortable life. The middle-aged man said with a grateful expression, Thank you, thank you. After Tang Xiu got the middle-aged man's bank account, he thought for a moment and then transferred 320,000 yuan. After that, he calmly spoke, I added 20,000 more. Use the money to buy nutritious food for your old father. This, the middle-aged man and woman looked at each other. For a moment, they almost kneeled out of gratefulness. They were really in dire need of money. Not only did they need it to pay their debts, but also to rebuild their house and their children's tuition. Back then, they said that they had a little more than 200,000 yuan in debts, and now they had an excess of nearly 100,000 yuan, which can be used to rebuild their house and for their children's tuition. This sum of 20,000 yuan was definitely not a small amount for them. A few minutes later, the middle-aged man and woman left. There were only the silver-haired old man and Tang Xiu inside the room. The old man narrowed his eyes, carefully looking at Tang Xiu for a long period of time. Only after a while did he slowly spoke, If I'm not mistaken, you bought the object for 320,000 yuan not solely because of their filial piety. As always, ones who came across something worth celebrating would look spirited and happy. Indeed. Since you didn't want to buy such a good object, naturally, I had to act. Of course, even if you eventually bought this object, I'd still think up every possible means to get it, no matter the price. Tang Xiu said with a smile. The silver-haired man's face flickered. He propped up his glasses and asked with a deep tone, That means you know about this object, yes? Tang Xiu nodded. However, he actually didn't want to talk about this topic anymore. After all, the demon stone was not something that could be understood by the silver-haired old man, to begin with. After he received and wrapped it, he said, The elder's surname is? The silver-haired old man said, My family name is Hu. You can call me Professor Hu. Mr. Hu, I believe you already know the purpose of my visit from Star City. I want to buy the ores we spoke about. How many do you have? Tang Xiu said. The silver-haired old man's eyes flickered. There are 2 wintertide fluorite and 1 star fragment stone. All of which are at the size of an adult's fist. Since you know about these 2 ores, I believe you know their value. May I see the ores first? Tang Xiu asked. All right. The silver-haired old man walked downstairs followed by Tang Xiu. After passing through the corridor, they arrived at a small courtyard in the back. Much to his surprise, Tang Xiu found that the yard had no plants whatsoever. Aside from the cold, hard concrete pavement, there was only a black painted house, giving off a vibe of repression and gloominess even if one was merely standing. "Please wait a bit." The silver-haired old man spoke as he entered the partial room. Without much effort, he came back with 2 small black suitcases. "The ores you want are inside the suitcases. Open it." Tang Xiu opened the suitcases and saw the wintertide fluorite and star fragment stone inside. After analyzing them for 2 minutes, he slowly nodded and said, "These indeed are the wintertide fluorites and star fragment stone." "Professor Hu, say the price." "For the 2 wintertide fluorites, 5 million each, and 10 million for the star fragment stone. Altogether is 20 million yuan. If you want them, pay it directly. If you don't want it, please leave." The silver-haired old man said. 20 million? Tang Xiu frowned. He only had a few million now and couldn't pay 20 million. However, he wanted these wintertide fluorites and star fragment stone, so he dialed Kong Xia's number, asking her to transfer 20 million to pay these 3 ores. A few minutes later, the silver-haired old man had received a transfer of 20 million yuan. "Might I ask, what are you going to do with these 2 ores?" "Of course, if it's not convenient for you to answer, you can forget it." Tang Xiu nodded and answered, "Forge some tools." Then, he took the 2 small suitcases as well as the demon stone coffin which was wrapped in a yellow cloth. The silver-haired old man quickly asked, "You have the technology to forge them? What can you forge out of them?" While walking, Tang Xiu answered, "I do have some forging skills and techniques. As for what I want to forge, it's not convenient to say it. By the way, since we've concluded our deal, I'll go back now. If you're able to get these ores in the future, please remember to contact me. I'll take as much as you have." The silver-haired old man didn't speak for a few seconds before he slowly spoke, "Although I only have these many, I know someone who has several wintertide fluorites and star fragment stones. It's just, I don't know if he wants to sell it or not." "Someone else also has them? Who is it?" Tang Xiu stopped walking and asked in astonishment. "He's my best friend, Li Bai. He's a geologist in Shanghai University's Department of Archaeology. I'd be able to help if you want to find him. He's also in Tianjin City right now," he said. Tang Xiu said with a smile, "Professor Hu, have you had dinner yet? How about we dine together?" A surprised glint flashed from the silver-haired old man's eyes. He nodded and said, "Well, let's consider it as me giving you a welcoming dinner as well. So we can also meet with my old friend." The night in Tianjin City was as though within the blue dome of heaven with falling stars. It was filled with bright colorful lights which illuminated everything along with flashing neon lights, leading to a flowing river of lights. Lotus Blossom House. This name was famous among the upscale restaurants in Tianjin City and was considered as the best, either for its cuisines or the environment. It was a 3-storied restaurant. The first floor was an open hall without tables and chairs with a variety of inlay mosaic paintings and calligraphies on the surrounding walls. Each and every painting had its own title and autograph, whereas the painting patterns were all related with lotus flowers. Tang Xiu was following the silver-haired old man, Professor Hu, to Lotus Blossom House. After arriving, only then did he knew that dining in this place turned out to have a very demanding requirement, for one had to have left behind at least one painting in the hall on the first floor. As for Professor Hu himself, he also had left one painting in the hall. Tang Xiu used his perception to look around and found that there were a total of more than 200 paintings, which meant that this place only had a little more than 200 patrons. However, one could bring their friends to dine here. This custom is truly rare and wonderful. Following behind Professor Hu, Tang Xiu walked upstairs and exclaimed. Professor Hu said indifferently, "Some people do have this kind of hobby. As for how they manage and run it, it's naturally their own business to take care of." There are a total of 24 boxes on the second and third floors. In the case that all of them are fully occupied with guests on the same day, it's impossible for others to dine here. Needless to say, this method is truly effective as this place is practically fully occupied almost every day. It's the hunger marketing tactic. Tang Xiu nodded slowly. It reminded him of the marketing model for Apple's iPhone. This model was especially focused on the psychological aspect of the consumers in regards to the rarity of consumer goods, which would result in the rising of its value. So to speak, as long as the food and wine were that of good quality, the business would be guaranteed to flourish. Professor Hu, since Lotus Blossom House is running this type of business concept, wouldn't they only get a few profits? No. It's the contrary. Their profit is very big. Professor Hu shook his head and answered. Tang Xiu was surprised. Why is that? The rarer the goods are, the more expensive they become. And in this case, the emphasis is on the expensive word. Professor Hu said. Tang Xiu understood it in a flash. Even if there were only 24 boxes and a total of fully occupied tables were just 24, however, if the price was extremely expensive, then the profit margin was quite big. Numerous boxes here were separated by partitions and divided into dining rooms and small drawing rooms. Since Professor Hu's old friend hadn't yet arrived, both of them sat on the couch in the small drawing room as the waiter assigned to them handed over the menu for the tea, beverages, and desserts. Shortly after, a pot of scarlet oolong tea and 4 desserts had been placed on the tea table in front of them. It's really expensive, truly. 2,800 yuan for a pot of scarlet oolong tea and 1,200 yuan for 4 desserts. Even before the main course, we have already spent 4,000 yuan. It seems the owner of this restaurant truly has applied the essence of the rarer the goods, the more expensive the value, without restraint. All in all, the requirement to dine here is truly high since people also have to understand about paintings, but they also have to be wealthy and respectable. Tang Xiu couldn't help but sigh. You yourself are still very young, but you can come up with 20 million to buy a few stones. I believe your identity and background is also unusual, yes? Professor Hu said with a pale smile. Tang Xiu couldn't help but reply in contrast, I'm only a student who just attended the CET. Huh? Professor Hu stared blankly for a moment as he said with astonishment, You're still studying? Who's still studying? A waiter opened the box's door as a half-bald old man dressed in a Chinese tunic came in from the outside. The most eye-catching was his eyes, which were full of spirit and extremely bright. Following behind him was a graceful, fairy-like girl. Despite being used to see beautiful women, Tang Xiu himself was somewhat moved upon seeing her. Old Lu, you're late. Professor Hu stood up and said with a smile. Lu Bai forced out a smile and said, This Tianjin city of yours is way too cramped. It's almost catching up with Shanghai. Professor Hu involuntarily laughed. He then spotted the girl as he said with a pale smile.
Ah.
It's the famed first beauty in the capital, Mu Weining. I heard that a few days ago you painted that a playing white crane and lotus painting, yes? The news about it quite resounded in the Lotus Blossom House. You're overpraising me, Professor Hu. Mu Weining humbly replied. Professor Hu faintly smiled. While pointing at Tang Xiu, he spoke to Lu Bai, Old Lu, the person who wants to see you today is him. How do you do, Professor Lu? I'm Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu said. You want to see me? Lu Bai was puzzled. Yes, Professor Lu. I heard from Professor Hu that you have several precious ores. Might I ask whether you're willing to sell them? Tang Xiu said. Lu Bai looked at Tang Xiu with astonishment. He then shifted his vision with a look of inquiry toward Professor Hu. Professor Hu said, I've sold the 2 Wintertide fluorites as well as my star fragment stone to this young man. However, his appetite is quite the big one. Lu Bai understood in a flash. His expression turned more apathetic as he looked at Tang Xiu and said, I understand your intentions, but those several stones of mine are not for sale. It's a pity. Tang Xiu secretly sighed inside and nodded silently. As the common saying says, a noble person doesn't rob others' favorite things. He was already content to buy 2 wintertide fluorites and 1 star fragment stone from Professor Hu. If he could buy more, it would naturally be a good thing. But since the other party didn't want to sell it, he also didn't want to force him.